Imagine, for a second, the most ancient, disciplined, just totally silent way of life humanly possible.
Right, like zero distractions.
Exactly. A life completely stripped of every single modern distraction, focused entirely on, the pursuit of ultimate truth.
Like a monk on a mountaintop.
Yeah, a monk on a misty mountaintop.
Yeah.
But now, imagine getting a directive to adopt that exact lifestyle, except instead of receiving it from some wise elder, it gets delivered to you via a sterile, automated Spanish push notification, just like pinging on your smartphone screen.
This is quite the mental image, honestly.
It really is. And today on The Deep Dive, we are dissecting what might honestly be the most fascinating 8-word paradox we've ever encountered.
Yeah, and we usually spend our time on this show dissecting, hundreds of pages of dense academic research.
Right, yeah, stacks of PDFs.
Yeah, we're always digging for that one golden thread of insight. But today, the listener has given us the thread itself, just the thread.
No padding whatsoever.
Zero padding, no chapters, no footnotes, just this raw, almost aggressive philosophical command.
So let's look at exactly what was shared with us, because the source material today is highly unusual. It's a digital share notification.
Literally just a push notification.
Literally. The exact text that popped up on the screen reads, and my Spanish isn't perfect, but it says, "He compartido un libro de Google Play Libros."
Meaning, I have shared a book from Google Play Books.
Right. And attached to that algorithmic, digital handshake is the title of a book by the author Lucio Aquerreta.
And the title is just 2 sentences.
8 words total. It says, "Find the meaning of life. Be your own monk."
It is just a phenomenal piece of text because of the sheer friction it creates.
Friction's the perfect word for it.
I mean, you have this profound, ancient-sounding spiritual directive just crashing headfirst into the hyper-commercial ecosystem of Google Play.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because while we only have a title, an author, and, well, the platform it was shared on, those few words contain a massive philosophical proposition.
Oh, absolutely massive.
We aren't just going to read this title today. We really need to interrogate it. We need to figure out what Aquerreta is actually demanding of you, the listener, and why this specific framing is so radical for the modern era.
Because titles are rarely just descriptive labels, The really good ones are arguments.
Right. They have an agenda.
Exactly. They distill an entire worldview into this single digestible pill. And the argument Aquerreta is making here is just layered with historical contradictions. He is asking us to navigate a very, very specific psychological terrain.
Well, let's tackle the first half of that terrain, that first sentence. Find the meaning of life.
Yeah, let's start there.
Before we can even begin to understand the method he suggests, this whole concept of being your own monk, we really have to examine the ultimate goal he claims we should be striving for.
And the word that demands immediate attention there is the verb, the word find.
Find, not make, not build.
Right. It is definitive, it's an imperative, and it is entirely unambiguous. By using the word find, Aquerreta is framing the meaning of life as an existing entity.
Like it's an object.
Exactly like an object. He is stating, basically as a matter of fact, that meaning is out there. Or, perhaps in there, just waiting for you to uncover it.
Which, if you think about it, flies in the face of almost everything we're taught today.
Oh, completely.
Like, think about the modern cultural narrative.
Right.
We are constantly told to create our purpose.
Build your personal brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Build your brand, forge your legacy, invent yourself. It's exhausting.
It is, and that's really the legacy of 20th century existentialism bleeding into our 21st century hustle culture.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, think about philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre or Albert Camus. Their fundamental premise was that life is inherently meaningless. The universe is just a void.
Just a blank slate.
Right. Therefore, it is the individual's ultimate burden and I guess their ultimate freedom to create meaning through their own choices and actions.
Right. So the existentialist view is kind of like being dropped into a completely empty concrete room and being told, hey, if you want furniture in here, you have to build it yourself from scratch.
And you have to go source the wood yourself. And by the way, you have to invent the concept of a chair while you're at it.
Right. You have to invent the idea of sitting.
Exactly. The mechanism of creating meaning is this massive, active exertion of your will onto an empty void. And it is, frankly, exhausting.
It's so much pressure.
It is. But Aquerreta doesn't say create the meaning of life. He specifically says find it.
Which implies that the furniture is already in the room.
The furniture is absolutely there. The room might just be pitch black, or the furniture might be covered in years of dust and clutter.
So your job isn't carpentry.
No, your job is simply to locate the light switch or, you know, pull off the dust covers.
Okay, I understand the distinction, but I'm struggling a bit with the mechanics of this quote-unquote finding.
How so?
Well, if I'm finding meaning, is it like finding a lost set of keys, where there is one specific, objective, universal object I'm looking for, and once I have it in my hand, the search is definitively over?
Okay, I see what you mean.
Or is it more like finding the right combination to a lock? Like, the numbers 0 through 9 are universally available to everyone, but the specific sequence that opens my lock is entirely unique to my life.
That is a really brilliant analogy. The combination lock analogy hits the nail on the head, especially when we look closely at the phrasing. He says, find the meaning of life.
Not a meaning.
Right. The use of the definite article that rather than a meaning of life suggests a universal truth.
Well, there's a baseline.
Yes, it suggests there is a fundamental architecture to human flourishing that applies to all of us. But, and this is the crucial part, when Aquerreta pairs it with that second sentence, be your own monk, he immediately contextualizes that universal search as a highly personalized solitary journey.
So the lock mechanism is universal, but the combination is deeply personal.
Exactly. The treasure itself might be a universal human need. Things like deep connection, profound presence, a sense of real contribution.
Everybody wants those things.
Everybody's looking for those things, but the map you have to follow to unearth those things in your specific life with your specific traumas, your talents, your weird circumstances, that map is entirely unique to you.
I have to say, there's a massive psychological relief in that framework.
Isn't it there?
Yeah. I just think about the sheer burnout people experience today trying to basically manifest their own purpose out of thin air.
It's a relentless pressure of constant creation.
It is. But if my job isn't to manufacture meaning on a random Tuesday morning, but rather to just be quiet enough to notice what's already there, I mean, that shifts the entire human task.
It shifts it from a task of endless industrial production to a task of careful archaeology.
Yes, an archaeological dig. I love that. You aren't building the artifact in a factory. You are delicately brushing the dirt off it in a trench.
You are digging through the sediment of your daily routines, your ingrained habits, all the mindless distractions you engage in, just to brush the dust off something solid and ancient that was buried underneath you all along.
Right, but archaeology requires incredibly specific conditions. Like, you can't just take a bulldozer to a delicate historical site.
Definitely not. You destroy the very thing you're looking for.
Which actually makes me think of a different analogy, one that feels maybe even more accurate to the internal nature of this particular search.
Ah, lay it on me.
Finding meaning isn't like looking at an X-ray, right? Where a machine does all the work and instantly shows you this clear, bright white line of a bone. It's much more like developing a photograph in a darkroom.
Oh, I really like that. Let's pull on that thread a bit. How does the darkroom change the mechanism of the search?
Well, in a darkroom, the image already exists on the negative. The meaning is there. You don't have to paint the image from scratch.
Right, you're not creating it.
Exactly. But to make it visible, you have to subject it to a very, very specific process. You have to submerge it in the exact right chemical environment. You have to give it time. And above all else, you have to fiercely protect the room from external light.
Because if the light gets in,
If you open the darkroom door and let the harsh, chaotic light of the outside world flood in, the image is destroyed before you ever even get to see it.
the process of revelation requires a fiercely protected environment. That is such a brilliant transition into the second half of Aquerreta's title.
Right, the whole monk thing.
Because if the goal is to develop that internal negative, to reveal the inherent meaning of your life, you need a darkroom. You need that protected space. And Aquerreta's instruction for building that space is simply be your own monk.
Which brings us to the core friction of this whole thing. Because on the surface, be your own monk is an utter paradox.
It sounds like a total contradiction in terms.
It's a complete oxymoron. Let's look at the archetype for a second. A traditional monk, and it doesn't matter if we are talking about a Tibetan Buddhist, a Trappist Christian, a Jain ascetic, they all outsource their willpower to their environment.
That's a great way to frame it.
They don't need self-discipline in the way you and I think of it because they have environmental discipline.
Right. They belong to an order. They physically retreat behind the stone walls of a monastery or an abbey, which literally physically separates them from secular temptations.
You can't be tempted by what isn't there.
Exactly. They surrender their autonomy to an abbot or a guru, and most importantly, they take vows.
The vows. Yes, the vows are the crucial mechanism here. Let's talk about how a vow actually functions cognitively.
Hmm.
Because a vow isn't just a promise you make on New Year's Eve, it's a cognitive tool.
A vow is the ultimate weapon against decision fatigue.
Explain that for a second.
Well, in modern psychology, we talk about this concept called ego depletion. It's the idea that human willpower is a finite resource. It's like a battery.
Okay.
Every single time you have to make a choice, even a tiny one like what to eat for lunch or whether to check your phone when it buzzes, you burn a little bit of that willpower fuel.
So by 5 p.m.,
By the end of the day, the tank is completely empty, and that's when you make terrible choices.
that's when you eat the junk food, you doom scroll on your phone for 3 hours, you snap at your family over nothing.
Exactly, because you have no defense mechanism left. But a traditional monk bypasses ego depletion almost entirely.
Because they don't make those choices.
Right. A vow of poverty, a vow of silence, a vow of obedience. These are not daily moment-by-moment choices. They are decisions made once, definitively.
It's a settled debate.
Exactly. A monk doesn't wake up at 4 a.m. and debate whether they should speak today or whether they should buy a new robe or what time they feel like meditating. The rule of the order dictates it. The vow acts as a closed door.
So it eliminates the friction of choice.
It eliminates all of it, which frees up all of that cognitive bandwidth to focus entirely on the spiritual pursuit. Or, going back to your analogy, it keeps the darkroom door firmly shut.
So the monastery walls keep the noise out, and the vows keep the internal chaos down. The environment is doing all the heavy lifting for your focus.
Which is exactly why the phrase "be your own monk" is so staggering.
It's terrifying, honestly.
It really is.
Because if the very definition of a monk is rooted in surrendering your individual will to a higher external structure, how in the world do you execute that on your own?
Who's in charge?
Right. Who is the abbot? Who is ringing the bell at 4 a.m., forcing you out of bed?
You are. You are the abbot. Aquerreta is essentially stripping away the physical stone walls. He's stripping away the religious institution and the external hierarchy.
Taking away all the safety nets.
All of them. He is isolating just the psychological and spiritual qualities of monasticism, the radical focus, the intentionality, the self-denial, and he is demanding that you internalize them.
So you have to build the monastery inside your own mind, but wait, that creates a massive problem of internal governance.
Oh, massive.
Because if I am my own monk, that means I have to play the role of both the strict, uncompromising abbot and the obedient, submissive novice at the exact same time.
And they both share the exact same brain.
Yes. The judge can be easily bribed by the defendant. I'm thinking about anyone who has ever tried to set a strict rule for themselves.
We've all been there.
You say, okay, I am not going to look at my phone for the first hour after I wake up. That is my monastic vow for the morning.
A very common modern vow.
Right. And then 7 a.m. rolls around, you hear a ping from your nightstand, and suddenly the novice starts negotiating with the abbot.
Just a little internal chat.
Right. The novice says, well, what'd be an important work email? And since I'm the boss of me, I can just grant myself an exception this one time. And boom, the walls in the internal monastery just crumble immediately.
And that right there is the fundamental flaw of being your own authority. It requires a level of self-trust and self-obedience that borders on the superhuman.
It feels impossible.
To truly be your own monk, you have to respect your own internal rules as if they were carved in stone by an ancient sacred order. You literally cannot negotiate with yourself.
But how does a modern person actually uphold a vow like that when their environment is actively fighting against them?
That's the million-dollar question.
I mean, a monk in a medieval abbey didn't have a glowing rectangular device engineered by thousands of PhDs explicitly trying to hijack their dopamine system.
They did not. And this is where Aquerreta's philosophy has to evolve beyond a literal interpretation. Be your own monk cannot possibly mean pretending you live in the 12th century.
You can't just put on a robe and ignore the Wi-Fi.
Right. It requires immense, highly modern self-awareness. You have to become a neutral observer of your own impulses.
Like watching yourself from the outside.
Exactly. You feel the urge to check the phone, you feel the urge to react defensively in a meeting, or the urge to just consume content mindlessly. You have to meet those impulses with the gentle but absolutely firm detachment of an abbot.
You watch the thought arise.
You watch it arise and you consciously choose not to act on it. You return to your focus. You step back into your darkroom.
It's basically bringing a sacred quality of attention to the intensely mundane realities of modern life.
I love that phrasing.
Well, think about it. A traditional monk doesn't just pray, right? A monk sweeps the courtyard with the exact same reverence as when they are chanting in the choir.
The sweeping is the
The
practice.
sweeping is the practice. So being your own monk today means treating your morning commute, your spreadsheet data entry, your incredibly frustrating conversation with a colleague with radical intentional presence.
And you have to sustain that presence without anyone giving you a gold star for it.
There's no audience.
None. There's no community of brothers or sisters watching you to ensure you stay in line. It is entirely 100% self-sustaining.
Which, okay, this forces us to look at the undeniable, glaring irony of this entire situation.
I was wondering when we'd get back to this.
We have to. We've been talking about stone walls, cognitive bandwidth, and ancient asceticism for 20 minutes. But we cannot ignore the actual medium through which this profound message reached us.
The digital footprint of the source.
Yes, let's go back to the literal text the listener provided.
He compartido un libro de Google Play Libros.
A title advocating for solitary monastic discipline and internal quiet was transmitted via a hyper-connected, deeply commercial technology platform.
The irony is just staggering.
It arrived as a push notification, a literal ping on a screen that is designed specifically to shatter the very focus Aquerreta is telling us to cultivate.
Which brings to mind the cultural critic, Marshall McLuhan.
Oh, the medium is the message guy.
Exactly. He famously argued that the medium is the message, meaning the technology that delivers the content actually changes society much more than the content itself ever could.
Right, like how the printing press changed how we think.
Yes. A printed book changes how a brain works. A television changes how a society processes truth. And in this case, the extreme friction between the medium, a Google Play automated share link, and the message be a monk is where the absolute deepest lesson of this deep dive actually lives.
You know, my initial reaction to the Google Play text was just that the universe has a funny sense of humor.
Like a cosmic joke.
Yeah, like the algorithm is literally selling us the cure to the disease it gave us in the first place.
It is deeply ironic, yes, but it's also a totally perfect encapsulation of the modern human condition.
How so?
Well, think about the vast majority of people listening to us right now. They do not have the luxury of retreating to a literal mountaintop.
I certainly don't.
Right. They cannot opt out of modern society. They have mortgages to pay. They have families to feed. They have jobs that absolutely require them to be on Slack or email all day.
You have to be reachable.
You have to exist in the digital ecosystem. Therefore, Aquerreta's instruction to be your own monk cannot possibly be a call for physical retreat. It has to be a demand for cognitive retreat.
Okay, I see. It's monasticism for the person who is legally or professionally required to carry a smartphone.
Exactly. You have to figure out how to maintain the dark room while the door is constantly aggressively being rattled by notifications.
People are just banging on the door.
Constantly. You have to maintain that internal monastery while navigating algorithms that are mathematically optimized to fracture your attention into 1,000 tiny monetizable pieces.
Monetizable. That's the key word. The attention economy uses human focus as a raw resource to be mined and sold.
Like oil or timber.
Yes. Every app, every notification, every infinite scroll feature is basically a drill trying to extract your attention.
So if we tie this back to the beginning, if the meaning of life is something you have to find, which, as we establish, implies quiet, observation, and sustained focus, then the noise of the medium actively prevents the discovery of the meaning.
Wow.
The Google Play notification, in its default state, is the literal enemy of the monastic state.
That reframes the entire concept of being your own monk for me. It isn't just about, like, peaceful mindfulness or doing some yoga.
No, not at all.
It's an active act of rebellion.
It is a silent, internal revolution.
You aren't protesting in the streets. You aren't smashing the Google servers with a hammer. You are simply refusing to hand over your cognitive real estate to the highest bidder.
You are holding the line.
You are keeping the keys to your own mind. You are saying, look, I'm in the digital world, I live here, but my attention does not belong to it.
And you build those internal monastery walls out of boundaries. Boundaries around your time, your emotional energy, and your attention.
So, if a traditional monk might take a vow of poverty,
A modern, self-directed monk might take a vow of digital intentionality.
okay, but what does that actually look like in practice? Because it can't just be a vague, I'll try to use my phone less.
No, vague doesn't work.
We already established that vague intentions just get completely destroyed by the internal novice negotiating with the internal abbot at 7 a.m.
Exactly. It has to be a structural boundary. It has to be a rule.
Like what?
Maybe it means consciously cultivating the ability to sit in a dentist's waiting room for 10 minutes without immediately reaching into your pocket for a screen.
Just to numb the microscopic discomfort of boredom.
Exactly, reclaiming the right to be bored.
Reclaiming the right to be bored. That honestly feels like the most radical monastic practice a person could possibly adopt today.
Because boredom is the dark room.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Boredom is that unstimulated empty space where the mind finally has the silence necessary to process its own existence.
If you never let yourself be bored.
If you are constantly drowning your consciousness in inputs, podcasts, music, text messages, the news cycle, you will never have the quiet necessary to find the meaning of life, which is exactly what that first sentence demands of you.
The push notification that delivered this title to us is the exact mechanism the title is training us to defeat.
It's poetry.
It really is. It's a paradox wrapped in an irony delivered by an algorithm.
And it proves that the monastery isn't a place on a map anymore.
It hasn't been for a long time.
Right. It is a fortress you have to actively build and actively defend inside your own skull every single day.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We started this deep dive with just a tiny fragment of text, a digital share notification, an 8-word title, and an author.
And we have unpacked a staggering philosophical framework from those 8 words.
It really highlights a beautiful truth about knowledge, doesn't it? Profundity is not tied to word count.
Not at all.
Lucio Aquerreta managed to issue this profound, life-altering existential challenge in just 2 sentences.
He challenges us to stop exhausting ourselves trying to frantically invent meaning out of thin air.
Right. We don't have to build the furniture from scratch.
We just have to develop the photograph. We have to quiet down enough to uncover the meaning that is already waiting for us in the dark room.
But he also challenges us to take ultimate, completely uncompromising personal responsibility for that process.
Because no one else is going to do it for you.
Exactly. You cannot outsource your focus to a physical monastery in the mountains. You cannot blame the algorithm for stealing your attention if you leave the door wide open for it.
Your mind is the new monastery.
Your mind is the monastery. You are the architect, you are the abbot, you are the novice.
You have to enforce the boundaries in a world that literally profits from tearing those boundaries down.
You have to take that digital ping on your phone and refuse to let it be a distraction.
Repurpose it.
Yes. You have to turn the notification bell into a temple bell, a reminder to come back to the present moment rather than an invitation to leave it.
Which brings us to the ultimate, most practical application for the listener today.
Where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. We've established that the external monastery is gone and you must build the internal one. The vows you take must be your own.
So if you are to be your own monk, and you are the one writing the uncompromising rules of your own internal darkroom,
what is the very first vow you need to take today?
what is the boundary you will absolutely refuse to negotiate with yourself on?
This is a heavy question.
It is. Think about it. And good luck building those walls.